On today's episode of the Nomad Podcast, we're diving into one of the most confusing and, let's be honest, terrifying parts of living abroad as an American: taxes. But don't worry, I brought in the expert, Heather Ryan, the tax queen. She's a former pastry chef turned IRS enrolled agent who now travels full-time and helps digital nomads, freelancers, and remote entrepreneurs not get wrecked by the IRS. Whether you're earning six figures from your laptop in Thailand or juggling clients across 3 continents, Heather Ryan knows how to keep your taxes legal, lean, and livable. From the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion to foreign bank reporting to what you can and can't write off when you're sipping espresso in Rome, Heather's got you covered. And if you've ever thought, I'll just wing it on TurboTax, this episode might just save your butt and your bank account. This is the Nomad Podcast, and today we're talking to the tax queen herself. Let's jump in. I saw you, the first time I saw you was on Warren and Julie's podcast. Yeah, and I was like, wow, she's so, because it's so hard for nomads to find someone who understands taxes about that,
and the lifestyle. I think that's people resonate with me because anyone can learn taxes. Like if you read through the documents and the code and whatever else, you can learn the stuff. But the fact that I actually get the lifestyle and they're not explaining themselves to the person is, yeah.
Yeah. So just, I saw you were a pastry chef first, which, by the way, that just sounds awesome because I love cooking. So that just, yeah. So how did you transition from pastry chef to basically a tax professional?
Well, the short story is I met my husband and he worked a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job. And when you work in pastry, you know that you work holidays and weekends. And so it was, I either give up the guy that I love or I give up or change my career. And I've always been a numbers person. My father was an entrepreneur and I always remember helping him with his books. And obviously running my own business, I needed to still know the books. So I just sort of transitioned to doing bookkeeping for other people and then transitioned to taxes from there.
Okay. Yeah, so I think most people think of taxes as boring, but like I'm kind of with you. I'm a numbers person. I was always good at math and I enjoy math. So yeah, I can see where you when you tell people that, it's like they're like, what?
Yeah, well, and if you think about baking, it is very much a science. Like you have to pay attention to the numbers. And how much each ingredient, because otherwise it's not going to rise or whatever. Something's not going to happen.
Right. And of course, if you have to expand that to a larger serving quantity, then you've got to be able to do the math on, especially if you're doing US measurements where, everything is bizarre, cups, pints.
So real pastry chefs, even in the US, go by weight. I don't do cups and.
Wow. Okay.
I always have a scale in my kitchen. Even professional kitchens, you have a scale because you're much more precise.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
1 cup of flour might be different than the next person's cup of flour, and that's where you end up with issues. So anyways, We're getting off topic, but that's really how I came to it. I mean, I still obviously love to bake, and family and friends get to enjoy those delicious baked goods.
I can imagine.
That's really that. I feel like it was somewhat of an easy enough transition in that it's still like analytical or whatever, like the mind that is needed to do both. So
yeah. So now you basically lived out of an RV for a while with your husband, just traveling. Where all did you travel?
So we did about 5 years, the US, or I should say North America, so Canada, the US, and then we went into Baja, Mexico.
Okay. So that sounds like that's a good adventure. And were you already doing taxes at that point?
I was doing taxes. When we hit the road, I was doing taxes. I rented an office during tax season. so that clients could come to me. And I think that was the biggest hit that I took when I left the road, and I just took a gamble, I guess, a risk that I would get new clients, and anyone who wouldn't come with me and work with me remotely, I said, best of luck, find someone else in the area that you feel comfortable with. I'm not going to have an office. Um, so I lost a lot of clients that way. But I built new clients in my own niche. And I picked it because they were my fellow nomads, like then my entrepreneurs, and we started going and meeting other younger, RVers as we were traveling. We went to the RV Entrepreneur Summit, which doesn't happen anymore, but Heath and Alyssa were running that. And I was meeting all these people, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I struggle with my taxes." And I was like, "Well, there we go." Like I felt like it was handed to me on a silver platter, kind of. These people need my help, and I can help them. And so that's just how it started, networking and talking to my fellow travelers.
Yeah. Well, and spoiler alert for people who are watching this, Heather's going to become my new tax person. I've had the same tax person from 1996 until a little over a year ago. And he retired. He's in his 70s, like well into his 70s. And I love him to death, but he quit doing taxes for everybody else and was still doing mine. And he's like, "Matt, I want to completely retire. Do you mind if I stop doing your taxes?" And I was like, his name's Randy. I'm like, "Randy, you don't have to ask me that. Just tell me, go find someone else." So, and the fact that I'm living out of the country now, it's like, he's always been good at knowing things. But the thing is I would much rather have somebody who actually understands the concept. And, I think that's where you come into play. And so,
Pitfalls, like when your internet doesn't work, or you end up traveling because something happened, whatever it is, and we have to switch a meeting, or you can't get to something right away. I get it, because I live that.
And yeah, and the internet you said, where you get an Airbnb for a couple of days and it says it has internet, but it's 1 megabit. Your cell phone's faster. Yeah.
I mean, you just have a bad travel day. Like, I don't know, there's storms and your flight is canceled and you get stuck somewhere and you can't get out your laptop and work on something. Like maybe I asked for a document or something, and you're like, "Hey, it's going to be an extra few days." Okay, that's fine. Thanks for letting me know. Like, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you see the biggest mistake that nomads make with their taxes?
I don't know that there's one mistake. I think it's a lot of times business owners, more so than anyone else, trying to do it themselves and missing things. They're missing deductions or taking things where they shouldn't, because they just don't understand the tax law behind it.
Yeah. And I can see that because
I differentiate that because there's a lot of retiree expats, right? Or RVers even in the country. And I think their returns don't change all that much. Having some retirement income, whether that's a pension or military pension or your own IRA, whatever, it doesn't really change, right? Whether you live in Spain, Japan, or the United States, it's kind of stays the same. But when you have a business, it does change. The rules change. And there's credits available that aren't to retirees.
Yeah. Yeah. And that being said, there's the, for digital nomads, they have the FEIE available. When is that available and when isn't it available for digital nomads?
So let's say what that actually is, because some people don't know. That's
Yeah,
the Foreign
true.
Earned Income Exclusion. And the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion is available for people who live outside the United States, whether that's through a residency, a visa program, a dual citizenship, like you're making you have a second passport or whatever, like in Spain or wherever, Germany, doesn't matter. That's an exclusion of earned income. So the limits change every year. I think this year we were up to 126,000 in 2024. Those are the numbers in my head. And every year it does increase a little bit. So you're allowed to literally exclude up to that number. So if it's 126,000, that's the number you get to exclude for taxes. So that's a really nice benefit, and making sure that we're not double taxed. as US citizens. I focus on US citizen taxation only. I do not know Spain. I do not know Japan. I do not know Brazil. I only know US tax laws. And US citizens are taxed on worldwide income, whether we live in the United States or not. We are one of two countries that do that. It's not residency taxation, it's citizenship taxation. So just to be clear, there are people that are still learning that and are unaware of their filing requirement in the US once they leave.
Yeah. And that other country you mentioned, I never can pronounce it. It's like Eritrea or something. It's like
it's in Africa.
Yeah, it's an African country. That one, I almost feel like that one doesn't matter because they're probably not going after their citizens in other countries, where the U.S., I think, does.
Bigger population.
Yes. And the IRS is a little more, I don't know, outreaching to try to collect that. So how does that, I know the U.S. has tax treaties with a lot of countries to prevent double taxation. How does that work along with the FEIE? Does that matter, or does FEIE work no matter what?
So the way that works with double taxation is that if one country, let's just take a country for lack so that we can give an example. So
Okay.
let's just use Spain because that's the first thing that's coming to my head. I don't know why, maybe because we went there last fall. I don't know. So if you are living in Spain and you are a tax resident there and you are required to file and pay taxes to the country of Spain, you will get a dollar for dollar credit on your tax return in the US for anything that Spain is taxing. So that's the double taxation treaty. And in Spain, I happen to know, I've actually worked with clients there, they are allowed to tax Social Security. And so some countries do not, but that's part of the treaty, is that they have first right to taxation. And so that's why we look at that. If you pay taxes to Spain, you're not going to pay taxes to the same amount in the US. And that's the benefit of the treaty. It's a little different. The Foreign Earned Income Exclusion is a separate provision, we'll call it, in the tax code. So there's the foreign tax credit, which is partially what that exclusion or the treaties are allowing for. We're getting credit for taxes we paid already on that income to someone else. Versus the earned income exclusion is just you get to take a dollar for dollar, exclusion of that income on your US tax return. And so you usually don't take both, you take one or the other. And it just, depending on the situation, which one is best.
And so you also have requirements for being able to meet that foreign earned exclusion. What are those requirements?
So there's two different scenarios. So the first one is called bona fide residency, and that's for somebody who is permanently living. We can use Spain because that's what I'm just going to stick with the country. So if you are a digital nomad, like a visa, or you are dual citizen or something, living in Spain, you have residency there, and that gives you that bona fide residency, and that allows you to take that foreign earned income exclusion. Many nomads choose not to have a residency, right? We move every, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months. It doesn't matter. It maybe depends on how long you're allowed to be in certain countries. So then we use the physical presence test, and that is the 330 days outside the US in a calendar year. So January 1st to December 31st, which means that you cannot come back and spend more than, I say, 30 days. I know there's that leeway of 35, but there's that gray area of being in the air over international stuff. So I usually say 30 days. No, don't come back to the US more than 30 days to visit your family or friends, because you'll disqualify.
Okay. And like I actually keep a spreadsheet of days in country. And like last year, I think I actually exceeded quite a bit. I think I was maybe in the US for 48 to 50 days. And, but I have a visa. Other than that, I'm not in the US. I have a visa for Colombia and also have one for Switzerland. And so that's where I spend all my time. So I'm assuming that I would qualify under the physical presence test, or am I just screwed because I'm too many days in the US?
So if you have a visa, we don't have to look at the physical presence test. If you have
Okay.
a legal visa, that would give you bona fide residency to be in those other countries or other country, depending on,
Okay.
yeah. So I do always tell my nomads, my international nomads, to keep a travel log with days in a country, days of flying, like all that stuff, all the dates, because we do report that. So if you're doing a physical presence test, we report, okay, you were in France from this day to that day. You were in Singapore this day to, like, we literally show that on the return to prove that you were not in the United States and the
Okay.
dates. And
Okay.
nowadays we have electronically, right? We have our, not our passports, but tickets. So if you're doing a train or if you're flying or whatever, we have those tickets that we can keep as proof that those are the dates. It's not hard.
Okay. Well, and then there's usually, well, I should say there's usually passport stamps, but golly, I don't know about you, but I, I think of all the places I go, only half the places stamp my passport now.
So they're actually doing away with the passport stamps because it's all, they're moving towards all electronic systems now. So I think that's, you're going to find that more common, that we're not showing passport stamps.
Yeah.
Obviously we'll have visas, might have a visa in a passport, right? So that we can legally enter and leave a country. But I think passport stamps are going away.
Okay. Well, there's also a foreign housing exclusion, or I'm not sure if that I'm calling it the right thing, but how does that work for people that would qualify for this?
So the foreign housing exclusion is usually when normally what I see, I don't see too many people qualify for this, at least for nomads. So if a business, let's say Google hires you and they want you to go to Paris and work in their Paris office, and they're going to pay you an extra 20 grand or 25 grand for your housing costs, that is now income to you and you get to exclude that. So
Okay.
the foreign housing exclusion is literally letting you deduct that housing allowance that your company is giving you. And that's why it's really only for W-2 employees. There is a foreign housing deduction, which would be allowed for self-employed individuals. But it's saying that the company is paying for your housing. And housing is literally rent. Or a lease, a let of an apartment. It's not to put furnishings in an apartment. It's not to buy a house or a condo. It's only for rent or letting out an apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And it is limited. I think the number is like 19,000 or something. I don't see too many people that are able to take that, so I don't work with that too often.
okay.
But it is there as a provision.
Okay. And of course, I know that like I've chosen I have a bank account here in Colombia, and I've chosen to just not have very much money in it because I don't want to have to deal with the F bar. I'm sure the United States knows that I have that bank account. I would imagine they still probably are reporting it just because I'm an American. But what are the provisions that people have to deal with being able to bank in other countries and as an American?
So some of that's outside my wheelhouse because that's not really tax, right? We're not
Yeah.
taxed on money just sitting in a bank. If it's earning money, if we're getting interest, we are. But if it's just sitting there, we're not taxed on it. I do help my clients file the F bar, and the F bar is just a foreign, foreign bank account like report. I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but we're filing with the FinCEN. So the Financial Crime Network in the United States. It's not with the IRS, and it's reporting anything if you have any accounts or assets over $10,000 in a calendar year. So at the high point was to hit 10,000 or more, you have to report all those. And it's just a reporting. It's not taxed or whatever. And I know there are very strict rules on banking when you open banks in other foreign countries that you have to show passports and citizenships and all kinds of stuff. But that's kind of out of the tax rim. So yeah. But I
Okay.
do help people with FBAR. And there's also, if people have investments or business stuff, we have to report that. There's a form, gosh, now I'm testing my memory, 3938, some 8938. I don't remember exactly, but it also reports foreign assets. And so that can be stocks and interest in foreign corporations and stuff. So that is reported on our tax return, and it's just an informational reporting. It's not a taxation thing.
Okay. So like I have a weird scenario in the sense that I would be, I guess, like a digital nomad where I have an LLC, but I also have an S corp, and I'm an employee of my S corp, just so that I can take advantage of I have a solo self-directed Roth solo 401k, and basically so I use that as my advantage. Um, I'm essentially the only employee of that company. The LLC is I'm just basically an owner, and that's what I have contractors under. So I'm trying to take the best of both worlds. Do you see a lot of other nomads do stuff like that?
Sure. I mean, it's if you're in your legal rights of setting up companies and operating, then it's best to take advantage of all the tax advantages that we can. So I don't see an issue with that. The issue we run into if we are living outside the US as a W-2 employee, and that the W-2 employee should technically be paying taxes and many times into their social systems of that country.
Yeah, yeah, I do pay. I pay Social Security on that.
Yeah, so that's where we get into issues. And many times S corps are not the best option for people that are living outside the US for their company. And they're forced to do um, what might be considered like a local LLC or sole proprietor kind of to pay those taxes to that
Okay.
country. And again, it's like very different as a nomad, right? Someone who is literally moving every few weeks or few months versus someone who's saying, I'm going to spend 6 months in Switzerland or 6 months in Colombia or more, right? And I'm choosing to live in a country. Because when you start to spend more than 6 months in a country, they consider you a tax resident.
Right.
So, and that's where we start to get into issues. And so it's there's no one size fits all as we're learning, right?
Yeah. Well, and I do my best to I do not stay in Switzerland more than 6 months because um, the taxes are just actually Switzerland's expensive. But you can ignore the taxes and just it's expensive. It's expensive to breathe there. So a very beautiful country, but you mentioned Spain earlier, and I have a little bit of I'm not like this big Spain. There's other countries I like better in Europe. But like Spain, Spain has the Beckham law, and a digital nomad, if they're not making money in Spain, it's my understanding they can claim the Beckham law and pay no taxes, but I think they can still claim the FEIE because they're not living in the U.S. Do you know anything about that?
That is correct. I've seen people so have to become what Spain calls autonomos, which is a self-employed individual, and pay into their social security system. Um, and I've seen people where they get away with like what you're talking about, and they just pay into the U.S. system. So I think it depends on visas. It might also depend on like if you arrive in Spain in August or September, you're not a tax resident because you're not spending enough of the year, at least that first year, right? So if you
Yeah.
like arrived in August of 24, you're not a tax resident in 24, but you will be in 25. So your situation might change as far as the tax return.
Do you deal with a lot of people who are dealing with the Portugal NHR?
I have dealt with a few people from Portugal. Um, I think that changed. Right now they removed that and you have to start paying taxes.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'll be honest with you, I'm not super informed on it, but my understanding is they removed it, but I think they've come out with a new version of it. I think that's fairly new, maybe just a few weeks old. And I still don't know all of it, the details. I think they've changed, they made some different rule changes. So I think it's back, but maybe not as better, maybe not as good as it was before.
Sure. And I think some people, like if you left the US 5 years ago and you were grandfathered into it, I don't keep track of every single thing that's happening. If I get a client that says, hey, I live in Portugal and, hey, here's I will learn and make sure that I know the current rules that they have to follow. But if I don't have a client in a country, I'm not just going to learn the rules
Right. I absolutely
just to
understand
learn them.
that.
So, yeah. I actually have, funny enough that you mentioned Switzerland. I have worked with somebody who lives in Switzerland and is married to a Swiss woman. Um, and yeah, he pays a lot of taxes to
Yeah.
Switzerland. So, but it's fine because he doesn't pay taxes to the US. So it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess and it's and that's the other thing. I always hear people talk, they start comparing taxes in, say, European countries to the US, and they're like, they start saying, things like, well, it's typically Americans, and they're saying, well, Europeans are paying 50%. And I'm like, and they're saying they're only paying like 30%. I'm like, you're just talking federal, because in the United States we have federal, state, we have Social Security. If you're a digital nomad, you're probably self-employed, so you're paying both sides of that Social Security. So you're at what, 15.3%. By the time you add all that up, you're probably at 50%. I think Americans don't seem to add the different taxations we have, and they just go for that. They compare that federal to what they're some European countries paying. So
I think we also fail to compare the services that they get
True.
or people, citizens of other countries, and also residents, right? If you're a legal resident, you get access to healthcare and things that we have to pay a lot of money for in the US.
Yeah.
well, I did a video on my channel. I pay 20 to $25 a month for healthcare here, and I'm talking to you from Bogota, Colombia right now. And that healthcare gets me essentially free healthcare. I mean, other than I'm paying that amount per month.
That's
But
like nothing. That's
it's
nothing.
I know it's
$25.
I know, and it's good healthcare. This for 2025, Colombia ranks 22 in the world, and the United States ranks at number 37. And so, when I've gone to the doctor for the quality and the efficiency.
Okay, interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, so and that's, to me, some people fail to notice some of those things. I've also seen, as just traveling around Europe a lot, that trash service is just part of life, and they recycle and they compost and they do all these things. And in the United States, I have to pay for trash service at our home base. Like, it doesn't come as part of my taxes or whatever. I still pay real estate taxes, but I pay for our trash to come and get delivered, like taken away. So I'm
Yeah.
just little things like that that we don't think of that are just included in life elsewhere.
Yeah, that's true. And so, I'm guessing you have clients probably scattered around the world. From Yeah. So, do you see any one country, or any two or three countries that seem to be the best for digital nomads, or is there really not a difference from a tax perspective?
I don't think there's some that are better than the other. To me, that's just your personal preference of what you like and what calls to you. Where do you want to spend time? Do you want to be in a tropical place? Do you want to be in Sweden where it's cold all winter and dark? I mean, it's really a personal preference. And also language, right? So, like, if you speak Spanish, then it's easier to be in Spanish speaking countries than to be in maybe Japan or, I don't know, China. I don't know if anyone spends a lot of time in China, just given their rules. But yeah, I mean, it's harder, right? If you don't speak the language, to really assimilate or get the culture.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and actually, do you deal with do you have any clients that with cryptocurrency that you have to do taxes with?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I
Okay.
work with crypto. Yeah.
Okay.
So, what kind of services do you offer to nomads? Is it just for the most part taxes and like help with the F-bar and things like that, or do you kind of go above and beyond that on other services?
So I like to say that I'm a full service. I do tax strategy, tax planning. So I'm not just here to fill in your forms and type in the numbers. I'm going to work with you throughout the year, and even in transitional phase. So if you come to me and say, "Hey, I'm planning to do this. I'm planning to move here," I work with you to kind of make sure everything is set up properly, and again, just kind of walk through things like you even talked about, having a solo 401k. People don't know all of that stuff. So it's to come to me, share your number, share your business, share your goals, whether you're single, whether you're married, or if you have kids, if you're retired. Like, we look at all of those aspects. And that's the whole idea, is that to touch base more than once a year, right? I don't want to just talk to you in March. I want to talk to you in July or in August or in November, whatever, whenever something's happening, changing, your business is growing like gangbusters, or it's declining and you say, hey, I'm making less money. Can I pay less taxes? How do I do this? So I really like to work with people throughout the year. And that's why I say it's like a full service. Sure, it might talk to more people at tax time, absolutely. But I can't help you if I don't know what's happening and what changes are going on. And so that's why it's a two-way street, right? The door's always open on my side. And when something is happening in your life and changing to business or whatever, just reach out and we'll deal with it and kind of plan for it.
Well, like I said, my old tax guy, I would always tell him if I was getting ready to do something that that I thought might impact my taxes in the upcoming year, I would always let him know. So I feel like that's good advice, because a lot of times he would tell me, no, you're fine. But then sometimes he'd be like, oh, don't do that. or let's change.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is people in transition. So selling properties, so selling a home. The US has a provision where you get $250,000 of gain tax-free on your personal residence. But what about if you have other properties? What if you haven't lived there for 2 years? I actually just talked to someone this past season and brought him on, and he was planning to sell his residence and he hadn't lived there 2 years, and he was ready to start digital nomad life. And I was like, just wait till June, sell your house in June, because then you'll be there 2 years. And he was like, that right there is invaluable advice. And he's like, I can wait a few months. I've waited this long. I can wait a few months.
Yeah, the capital gains on that would have been a lot.
Yeah, so that's why it's really important, like before a decision happens, when you start thinking about something, is just reaching out to say, hey, can we have a call, or send me an email? It doesn't even need to be a call. I mean, I realize if you live in Japan, it's like a huge time change, right? So sometimes the email is the quickest, easiest way to work it. Just saying, this is what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't help. And I know a lot of people that work with tax preparation, right? And that's it. They just talk to their person once a year, and the person says, hey, you owe this amount, or hey, you're going to get this refund. And then you go on your merry way and you have your whole year. And that's the difference. And I like to actually have a relationship with my clients.
Okay. Well, and like, your clients that are living outside the U.S., of course, if they're doing taxes, if they're having to also do taxes in another country, I'm assuming that they need to get a person in that country to do that part of it. You handle the U.S. side.
Correct.
So,
yep. And I know some people don't want two separate people, and depending on where you are, if there are a lot of expats, there may be people that are versed in both, and I totally respect that. But I'm here for the U.S. side.
Yeah, well, and the U.S. that's the tough side. I mean, it's the more complex tax side. So,
I started working with a couple from Brazil, and I looked at their Brazil. I don't speak Portuguese or read Portuguese, but I can kind of read between the lines enough. And they have to put their car, their apartment, everything is shown on their tax return. And I was like, this is crazy. It seems crazy to me. And I think there must be allotted, like, it's not like she paid a ton of taxes, but I was like, why is that even reported on your tax return? That you have this, whatever, $200,000 apartment, or I don't know. It just seemed weird to me.
Yeah, that does seem weird.
Each country does their own thing and makes their own rules. And yeah.
So, as far as clients, are you taking on new clients? Do you have a wait list?
So I am. My client list was closed for 24, but it is reopened. So I normally would close in January for that tax season. And I will only take on the amount of people that I know that I can help and help well. Otherwise, you're not going to, yeah, there's only one of me. So I want to make sure that everyone gets the time that they deserve and the attention to the return. So I do close my list in January, but it is back open. So I would recommend people come to me in the summer or the fall and just do a discovery call if you're interested in working with me, even if it's not like for the current season, right? So we just closed 24, but if you're interested in working with me for 25, yeah, come to me in the summer or the fall, touch base with me and get on my list. Otherwise, you might be closed out.
And then, of course, as a digital nomads actually have till, isn't it May 15th for their taxes? Oh, they get 2 extra months. Okay.
So if you're outside the US at tax filing time, you get till June 15th automatically. You can actually file for an extension and get all the way to December.
Wow. Okay. That's cool to know.
Yeah. I don't recommend it. Sometimes it's important because if you're living in another country and their return isn't done until June or July or something, then you need that time to actually work on your return because you don't have the taxes that you paid to that foreign country done yet.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's why we have that leeway. And I do have clients. I just started working with someone who's Italian, pays taxes to Italy. And she's like, can we just wait till June when the filing is done in Italy? And I was like, yes, that sounds reasonable to me because you're going to pay taxes there and we're going to take the credit here in the US.
Okay. And so I'm assuming you do, in addition to doing personal returns, you do people's corporate returns or business returns in the US as well.
Yep. So I can do partnerships, S corps, C corps, all of the above.
Okay.
The only thing I really don't work with is trusts. If that's something that you guys, I don't see it too often. I don't people asking me about it, but I don't do trusts. I feel like that's a specialty all on its own.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. So who do you consider your ideal client? Just any digital nomad, or is there clients that you like in particular?
Sure. I mean, I like business owners versus there's more complications, and I maybe it sounds bad, but it's more fun. It's more things to work with and to get you good deductions and things. So it's more fun for me. It's a little more complicated, obviously. A retiree, I definitely help many retirees and I don't have any problem working with them. They're just a simpler return. So sometimes it's just that they want to know that they're doing it right. And that's why they hire a professional. But I prefer business owners. They're really who I target. And it's also just many people become a business owner when they start being a digital nomad and traveling, and they're new to it. So they don't know what expenses they can take and what they should be tracking or how to track it. So just kind of going through those things and helping. And that's the idea, is that I really like to help people save on their taxes, be organized. I kind of love hearing people's stories of how they got started, why are they traveling, where are you now? It's kind of fun to share that there's just a lot of unique ways to make things work.
Do you have any tips for people to track their various expenses and stuff to make it easier to get it to you?
I mean, I recommend using software, whether that's QuickBooks or Xero or Wave. I mean, it doesn't matter, but some kind of software. Obviously, having separate bank accounts. If you're running a business, that is the number one. Have a separate business bank account. And some people tell me, well, I'm a sole proprietor, so I can't open a business bank account. And I say, that's fine. Have a personal checking account that is only used for business. So all your income is going in there and all your business expenses go out of there. If you need money to go out to the movies or to go buy groceries, you transfer money from the business account, even if it's not a business account, to your personal account to pay rent and to buy your groceries and to pay your whatever phone bill. That's really, that separation is really important.
Do you see, what do you see as the biggest deduction that people fail to take?
That's a good question. I don't know that there is one.
Okay. So it's kind of just all
I
over
think
the
it
place
depends.
on those.
Yeah, it depends on the individual. Like a lot of people leave off their phone or internet. And I'm like, you're a digital nomad. You need that stuff to work, right? How are you getting in touch with your clients or doing your work if you can't dial in, whatever? I know we don't dial in, but you have to connect. So things like that. Sometimes even health insurance, digital nomad, it's a little harder with health insurance. It's a little easier if you're in an RV in that respect. Uh, but just kind of missing expenses that are just kind of taken for granted. Like we just spend money and we don't think about that it's business related.
Yeah. So I just now you got me thinking. You mentioned the RV and everything, and when you're a business owner, you're in the U.S. Maybe you're working from home. You you know you can map out like whatever room you're using as your office in your home as a home office to deduct it. You deduct the square footage or whatever. I don't know how the math works out on that, but I'm guessing it's dividing the square footage of that office by the house and by what rent you're paying or whatever. But does that is that something that can work for digital nomads? Like say in the RV, can you have a dedicated space in the RV or in an Airbnb or is okay.
RV generally no, because it's so tiny. That's generally speaking. I mean, there are exceptions. But I do have people that even in the US, they'll travel and spend 2 or 3 months in an Airbnb. And so they are very meticulous and record the size of, they always get a 2 bedroom. So she has an office space and they record the size of the office space and the size of the rental, like the entire thing. And then we actually do get to take the home office because of that, because she's very meticulous with her records. Like that's why for me, it's about records. Can you prove that you had this space and it cost you whatever X amount of dollars to rent that space to use it for your business? And sometimes that's even just taking a picture. So your first week there, you set up your office, take a picture of it. It's on your phone or wherever, and like, okay, here's my office space. I don't use it for anything else. I don't go in there and watch TV. I don't eat my meals in there. I just go in there to work.
Okay.
So it's individual situations. And there are people that might actually get an apartment. So like maybe you rent a place because you get a digital nomad visa in Spain and you rent an apartment there. You can certainly have a home office.
So out of all the people you do taxes for, what do you see as a percentage of those that actually get audited and have to actually, go to the table to prove everything?
So, I think audited is a very general term because you can be audited for one thing on a return. So the IRS can question, or state, they can question one item. So the idea is that, okay, maybe they're going to question your home office, or maybe they're going to question your mileage. I've had someone questioned for charitable donations because they were very charitable and giving, and they had very high donations and they needed to show their receipts. And they show the receipts, you show your records. The IRS says, okay, thank you. Have a nice day. So if they start to see you don't have records or that something sounds fishy, then they can open up and look at more. And so that's why I'm always pushing, have records, have proof, because if the IRS comes and asks for one thing on the return and you can't show it, that gives them the door to open to the rest. So I rarely, thankfully, knock on wood, have to really deal with the IRS or auditing. Most of the time I don't want to throw my taxpayers under the bus, but it's somebody leaving out a form. They just forgot. Oh, I forgot I had my Charles Schwab investments and didn't give it to you. Oh, I forgot I sold that stock last year because I did it in February. And they just didn't think to pull the form. And the IRS says, hey, there was this income that you didn't report. That's more that I see than actually questioning numbers on a return. But it
Okay.
happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't. I've seen, again, charitable contributions be questioned, and I've seen mileage. High mileage is a huge red flag.
Okay. So yeah, that was the thing that I
Does
dealt
that
with.
answer that question?
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't
it
have a
does. Yeah, yeah,
percentage.
because it sounds like you don't get a lot,
And that's always good information, to know. You always wonder how often does the IRS try to, I heard horror stories from a couple people I knew 20 or 30 years ago. When I was a lot younger, a guy that I knew that was a business owner, the IRS was auditing him every couple of years, and he always would prevail, but they would basically come in and want to see things. And he had good record keeping, and it came to a point to where I think he had to get an attorney or something at one point and said that, okay, it's harassment and auditing at this frequent. And then later I heard something like I heard that there was a limitation of 3 times in a certain period of time or something. But yeah, he always prevailed, and it's just he had high expenses for a business, but he also made lots of money, and so so that was, I think, he did stuff with farm equipment, so they were high ticket, like professional farming, so it was high ticket items, but he had to travel all over the place for those. So that was just I think he was just hitting those triggers that they have, but yeah, I don't think I've
A higher income earner or higher expenses, things that are unusual. It's also, in this day and age, I don't know about 30 years ago, but in this day and age, it's a computer. A computer
Yeah.
is flagging that number and saying, hey, somebody needs to take a look at that. So that's why I am careful, and especially with mileage, home office, things like that, making sure that you have records. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you, hey, you're welcome to take this. It is always your return, a taxpayer's return. I'm here as your guide to help you get the right numbers in there, but it's your return. So you're responsible for proving things, not me.
Right.
So yeah, if you're comfortable taking that risk, then you're welcome to file it that way and take those numbers. That's usually what I give a warning. How's that?
Yeah.
and that's good. Well, how does someone actually contact you to want to talk to you and hire you?
Sure. So my website is tax-queen.com, and that has all my contact info. So you can schedule a discovery call right there. You can send emails through there or contact form. That's the best way. I'm on some social, Instagram, Facebook, and I do some YouTube. That's actually one of my biggest things. And I know they're not even clients at this point. Some of them become clients, but I do a free Tax Tuesday live. So the first Tuesday of every month, I take questions. So I do it live. I get some of the questions submitted beforehand. So I'll always answer those first. And then if there's time, I answer them live. And it's been kind of fun. Sometimes I've had, I don't have a ton, like 10 people show up live. And it's kind of a fun back and forth because I need clarification sometimes on questions. So I'm like, hey, is this person here? Type in some clarification. And so it is a fun time. And I know people get a lot out of that because it's individuals asking questions. And I know if one person has a question, there's at least one other person that has the same question. So it's really helpful, I think, and people have appreciated it. And some people become clients from that. But that's a freebie that I do for everybody around the world. It doesn't matter if you're a client or not.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then you can, I'm honestly not sure that I have a link anywhere on the website. I do share all that on social media. There'll be links when it's like the week before Tax Tuesday. There'll be a link set up to share a question or submit a question. If you get on my email list, you'll also be notified. So I think I do try to keep that to people that are either on my list or following me in some way. It's not, it's open to the public, but it's not on my website like, hey.
So, and I have, I guess, one last question. What's the number one thing a nomad should do before they move abroad?
Oh, the number one thing. I don't know if there's one thing. I think, to me, it's kind of what I had touched on earlier. Finding a tax person that you're comfortable working with and making sure you're talking to them before you make the changes in your life as you're planning for it. I don't know too many people that just wake up and decide to sell their house and move abroad. Usually we take some time, whether it's a month or 2 months or a year, to plan for that. But just really reaching out, making sure you set things up properly. Like, again, not selling your house before the 2 years.
Yeah.
Little things like that. I think that's my tip. Obviously, there's tons of other tips for being a digital nomad, but as far as taxes are concerned, it's making sure you have someone you trust that you'll work with and can help you through that process and transition.
Okay. Well, Heather, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and so like to maybe do this again with you in the future. But yeah, you're awesome. You got great answers, and and you and I are going to be talking. I'm going to be a new client for you, so. But yeah, and I'll be reaching out very soon with you, probably in the next few days. Yeah, I really am grateful that you took the time to do this, and hopefully others will see this and basically contact you, and hopefully you'll get some clients from this.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and it's always a fun time talking taxes and travel.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, take care.